welcome to another wonderful episode of MrLopezClases.com. Today we are in contact again with the Diesel Pro Power, and I am in a great conversation with Cesar. Hi Cesar, how are you?
Very good. How you doing, Mr. Lopez?
Great, thank you to see you.
Good to see you too again. Thanks for inviting us.
No, nice. Guys, in the previous episode we start with the tachometers. We talk about the mechanical tachometers, the electrical tachometers, and today we are going to focus our conversation in the process of installation. A lot of tips, a lot of recommendations. Cesar have a lot of experience with those tachometers, and we are going to talk a little about the troubleshooting, no? In some cases.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. No, thanks for having us. Just straight to the point.
Yeah. Normally, when you receive a phone call in your help desk asking about the installation, what is your first recommendation?
Well, then, it's very simple. We can start by describing the tachometers. These tachometers are being made or designed to work with 12 volts or 24 volts. Directly. You can use it on 12-volt system or 24-volt system.
For 24-volt system.
Yes.
Oh, this is great.
And then we divide them, the two types. You can connect it or get the pulses or read the RPMs of the engines from the alternator, or you can read the RPMs from the magnetic pickup.
Correct. And today, guys, we are going to show the difference. Where should be located the magnetic pickup, in what part in between the engine and the transmission. We are going to check where it's located. And also we are going to check in the board where should be coming the signal, if the signal is coming from the alternator. Those are the two possibilities, no? For
that is right.
Alternator and from the sensor, because this is basically a sensor, no?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Any other topic about that before we start with the explanation?
Well, then, pretty much that's basically it. These tachometers, as you can see, they're electrical, of course, and they're analog tachometers. They are not digital tachometers. They are efficient, and they're definitely, they're designed. The diesel Pro gauges are designed. For example, the magnetic pickups to work with flywheels from the range that has 54 teeth all the way to 304 teeth. If your flywheel has this amount of teeth, or the teeth are within this range, yeah, it can be calibrated, can be set up with the deep switches in the back of the tachometer.
Oh, great. Cesar, I received some phone calls years ago about because you mentioned that those tachometers are coming in 24 volts and 12 volts. What happened if my tachometer originally is designed for 12 volts and I install with 24? What happened?
Well, then these already built in and already calibrate. It don't matter how you connect it; they're still gonna function. If you connect it, they only have one port for the power.
For the power. Now we are going to check that.
Mm-hmm. And as long as you connect the power into that port, if you have 24 volt or 12 volt system, it will not damage the tachometer. It will function properly.
Okay, great. The tachometer is not damaged, guys. Doesn't matter if you connect with 12 or 24 volts.
Yes, that's right.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other consideration before you start with the installation? Okay, good power, good ground.
Yes.
Good ground.
Well, then just make sure that definitely you only going to need 3 wires pretty much just to install the tachyometers, and make sure that you have power, and also make sure that you already find or decide how you're going to connect it. All right, and pretty much that's all you need.
Okay, then we are going to continue right now. We are going to check the connection, the electrical connection, and after that we are going to check the connection with the pickup, with the sensor. We are going to move our cameras to check the electrical panel and verify how is the process to install. Okay, guys, we are going to start with the electrical connection. We have in each hand a tachometer. This is the front of the tachometer, the electrical tachometer. The electrical tachometer. Remember, the fabrication is with a great material, marine grade materials, and in the back we have three signals. One signal in the middle for ground, other terminal for signal, that's the signal coming from the alternator, and this is the power from the ignition switch on the panel, on the dashboard. This is the terminal, positive terminal for the light the light on the instrument, and this is for the bracket to support the tachometer in the panel. That's it, no? That's
Yes, it's pretty simple, very straightforward, you know, as you can see over
ground
here.
in the middle. This one from the ignition bus bar, and the ignition bus bar receives the signal from the ignition switch. And that's the signal, no, Cesar?
That's correct. This is the signal, pretty much.
It's coming from?
In this case, you know, it can be connected. We can explain to the alternator.
The alternator.
The alternator typically it has a connection.
Correct.
Where it sends the pulses to the tachometer. The tachometer reads the pulses, and you calibrate it with the dip switches here in the back.
Correct.
Each tachometer.
How is the calibration?
Each tachometer brings the calibrations signals, so you can position the dip switches in the correct positions. For example, if it's reading 3 or 4 pulses, and that determines 1 RPMs, you can calibrate the dip switches exactly how it mentions here in the tachometers. And also you can find these instructions in our website. You can click in the installation instructions, and you're definitely going to find this information as well.
Oh, nice. This is exactly the information. Basically, you have a here when you remove the cover, you have 4 terminals.
Correct. No, you have 10 dip switches.
Oh, 10 dip switches. And depending on the position of those dip switches, you calibrate for 8 cylinders, 10 cylinders. Oh, wow.
That's correct. And the amount of teeth there is required in the flywheel.
Now, can we explain the theory about the teeth on the flywheel?
Sure.
Flywheel, no, Cesar?
That is correct. Well, we're going to start by describing this, right? This is the magnetic pickup. The main function of this, it is actually what the word says. Pick up the signal through the magnetic pulse, all right? And how does it read the pulses, right? Definitely, you know, it goes with the installation, and I'm going to explain you how, right? So each flywheel housing will have a hole.
Yeah. Cesar, as you mentioned before, normally you remove the plug and you install the sensor over there, no?
That's right, that's correct. You know, sometimes, you know, the magnetic pickup hold or position, you know, it could be in many different places. It could be on top of the flywheel, it could be on the side.
On the side.
And sometimes you can even find them in the back,
on the lateral.
On the side of the flywheel housing. And as you can see on the bottom, but that is not recommended. Factories stop manufacturing that because it was a dangerous position. It could break very often when they move the engine or when they install it. So the main reason they do it in places where it can be saved.
Safe,
you know.
yeah, okay. Oh, nice. This is the this particular case. What is the thread of the? This is the small one, no?
Yeah, this pretty much is a 5/8.
5/8.
5/8.
Yeah.
And the ones here in the bottom is a 3/4.
Oh, okay.
So you have 2 different options. Sometimes, you know, you have the big transmission here, so you don't use this bracket here, or you don't install brackets here to install the engine because the transmission will hold the engine in place.
And then they have other brackets.
Exactly. So that's why, you know, that you can use this one. But however, if you use this bracket here, you can have these other options here, so you can connect the magnetic pickup on the back of the flywheel.
Correct. The other one that you and me we mentioned before is when the sensor is in the bottom, no, like this.
That's correct.
This is not good, no.
Yeah, sometimes it's not good.
It's not recommended.
It's not recommended, or just because of the location. It's too dangerous. You know, sometimes it can be breaks and you don't want that, you know, on an engine for sure.
Yeah, when that sensor is located in the bell housing for a generator, that sensor is used for 2 purposes: to read RPMs and to read frequency, because it's a generator, 50 hertz, 60 hertz now.
That is right. Yes.
Yeah. And if it's for a diesel engine, normally that sensor work together all the time with the cam position, with the camshaft position sensor. In some engines, in other manufacturer, they use for the timing only that signal, the signal from that sensor. Depending on the manufacturer, that sensor is used to read RPMs, and that sensor can be used for timing. Depending on the manufacturer. Great. On the bell housing.
Yes, all of them, all the engines, even the 2-cycle engines. From the 2-cycle engines to the new ones, the 4-cycle engines, they're all electronic engines. The flywheel housing always going to have a magnetic hole for the magnetic pickup.
And you bolted.
And you have 2 different sizes. Typically, you're going to have 2 different sizes. You're going to have a 5/8 and 3/4. To install it, it's very easy, right? So typically they come with a plug on it, right? So you remove the plug, and then you thread in or the magnetic pickup all the way until you hit you see the teeth of the flywheel. Once it hits the teeth of the flywheel, just go back half turn, and that'll be enough space or clearance for the magnetic pickup to pick up the signal.
Recommended.
Yes, sir.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You bolt it, you thread it, until you touch the crankshaft. Immediately you touch, you return half turn.
Half turn, and that's gonna be enough clearance for the magnetic pickup to pick up the signal from the flywheel.
This is great, Cesar, because in some cases, guys, for example, this engine was in a generator. When you have the back end here, you don't have how to insert the filler gauge over there. Or if you have the transmission, you don't know how much is the gap. That's it. This is a great. You touch and you return halfway.
Yes, half turn, and that'll be enough. And as we mentioned before, then it's gonna go. You're gonna calibrate the tachometer based on the amount of teeth on the flywheel. So how will you determine how many teeth you have on the flywheel? Very easy. With the engine serial number, you'll be able to determine how many teeth does the flywheel has. You can call the engine manufacturer. They can provide you that information, and definitely you can just calibrate it through the dip switches in the back of the tachometer. You got to remove this cover here, and then you position the dip switches based on the amount of teeth.
On the table.
Yes, this little table here, for example, it says 50 teeth. So if your flywheel has 50 teeth, from 50 to 55, the dip switch number 1, you got to put it on, and then switch number 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be off, and 6 and 7 and 8 are going to be off, and then you're going to turn on number 9, and number 10 is going to be off, and that way this tachometer will read the correct pulses and the correct RPMs of the engine.
Oh, okay. I have a question, Cesar. In the box where the tachometer is coming, you have the instructions about that.
Yes, we do have the instructions, and also you're gonna find the instructions in the website as well.
Okay, perfect. You have the instruction for Caterpillar, for Cummins, for each manufacturer.
Well, yes, these tachometers are set to work with any engine, as long as the flywheel has the amount of teeth between 50 to 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. It can be calibrated and it can be used in that engine.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. It's too simple, guys. Basically, the electrical tachometer, we are going to summary the installation. Ground, this one is the terminal from ignition switch, and this is the signal. The signal have two possibilities. One possibility from the alternator is the AC output. Remember that the alternator have two outputs. One output for DC to charge the battery bank, and other output with AC current. That small signal AC current is coming here. This is when the signal is coming from the alternator. When the signal is coming from the sensor is bolted here in the housing. And what is the process? You bolted the sensor until the sensor touch the flywheel. After that, you return half turn. And this is the gap recommended in general. After that is the calibration of the pulses. The calibration of the pulses is according with this window and this small map. Okay, with the window and according with the instruction in the service manual, you calibrate those terminals.
That is correct, yes. And the last step, is something that we forgot to mention, which is the light bulb. All of them comes with light bulbs. So the connection to the light bulb is the same signal that you have coming from the ignition switch. So
jump it here,
jump it here, and you connect it here, right?
Correct.
And pretty much you're gonna have a gauge that is gonna turn the lights on, and it's gonna work every time you turn the ignition switch. Okay.
Oh, that's great. In that particular case for the light, this is the recommendation. From the ignition switch, you fit the ignition bus bar. And from the ignition bus bar, you fit the oil pressure sensor, you fit the fuel sensor, you feel the temperature sensor, and you feel the tachometer. Those purple cables are the cables to bring the power for tachometer, oil pressure, temperature, fuel, all the instruments receive in the position ignition power from the ignition switch. In the position signal, the signal coming, in this particular case, from alternator or from the magnetic pulse. This is for tachometer. For oil pressure switch, the signal is here, is a light blue. For a fuel sensor, the signal is pink color, and from temperature sensor, the signal is tan color. This is the process to feed the instruments, and in this particular case, in this particular video, the tachometer. Any other recommendation with those tachometers, Cesar?
No, pretty much it. You know,
It's
they
simple,
can
no?
be, like I mentioned in the previous video, they can be used on the open flying bridge on the boats, or they can be in the engine room as
I
well.
have another question. Can I connect another tachometer, for example, in the fly bridge in parallel with this?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. They have enough signal, you know, so enough ohms, so they can
To
be
allow
used
another one.
to allow another
Oh,
tachometer.
great.
Yes.
This is a nice conversation with Cesar. I learned a lot when I talked with you.
No,
Nice.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful episode, and now you are ready to install the tachometer in your diesel engine.
All right. Thank you, guys.